Hi, Chuck Hawley from West Marine. You know, West Marine stocks a potentially bewildering assortment of batteries, and yet it's not actually that difficult to find the right battery for your boat. So in this brief video, we're going to be talking about AGM batteries, gel batteries, deep cycle batteries, dual purpose batteries, and starting batteries. Let's get started. We're going to start our battery discussion today talking about starting batteries. Starting batteries are the most common, or at least the most popular that West Marine sells, and that's because so many types of boats use starting batteries. Mostly boats that are on trailers, runabouts, boats from say 16 to 25 feet long that need an intense amount of energy to start a gasoline or perhaps a small diesel engine. So, for example, here's our starting 550. The 550 means it has 550 marine cranking amps to crank over your engine. Now, it gets a little technical, but that means that it can develop 550 amps for 30 seconds at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is a measurement of how much cranking ability it has to turn over an engine that's really cold. Starting batteries are also the least expensive. They have the least amount of lead in them, so for a given size, they're a little bit lighter than dual purpose or deep cycle batteries. This particular battery is a flooded lead acid battery. Flooded meaning that it has liquid acid in it, and if you turn it upside down, you can actually get the acid to spill out of it, which you wouldn't want to do. It's also a very low maintenance battery because it has calcium in the grid, and the calcium keeps the gassing down, and the gassing is what causes you to have to add water to most batteries. While not entirely maintenance free, it's very low maintenance. So starting batteries are ideal for trailerable boats, outboard powered boats, inboard powered boats, but they are not good if you cycle the battery deeply. That means if you put a small load on it, like, say a stereo or maybe a small inverter, and you let the battery go way, way down in discharge and then you bring it back up. That will damage a starting battery if you do it enough times. If your type of use does indicate that you want to cycle batteries and also start engines, you're a candidate for a dual purpose battery. The next kind of battery you should consider is a dual purpose battery. Like the starting battery, this is a flooded battery, meaning it has liquid acid inside of it along with lead and lead paste. In this case, this is a dual purpose 650. That means it has 650 marine cranking amps, but it's also measured in amp hours. Amp hours is a measurement of how many amperes you can draw times the number of hours you can draw it for. So for example, this battery is rated at 65 ampere hours. That means that we could apply a 5 ampere load to this battery for 13 hours before reaching 10.5 volts, which is when the battery is considered dead, or at least fully discharged. The reason that you'd want to buy a dual purpose battery is that it's much better if you are discharging and charging, discharging and charging the battery. So if you have, say, an auxiliary sailboat where you need to be able to start the engine, but then the engine's off for a lot of the period of time and you discharge the battery down using normal DC loads, a dual purpose battery would be a good choice for you. They're a little bit more expensive and they're quite a bit heavier. And the heaviness is what you're paying for because that means you're getting more lead, and more lead means more capacity. So dual purpose batteries for conditions where you want a good starting battery, but you also want a battery that can be cycled many, many times. The final flooded battery in our lineup is a deep cycle battery, like this Deep Cycle 90. Now the 90 now just stands for amp hours because this is a battery that's designed to be used to power a load for a long period of time and reach a very low state of discharge and then be able to charge right back up to full charge. In this case, this will run, say, a 9 amp load for 10 hours, giving you 90 amp hours. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if I've got a small diesel engine or a small gasoline engine and I want to start it, but I also want to have deep cycle batteries? That's okay. It may not be quite as effective as starting battery, but you won't damage it by using it as a starting battery. These batteries can be charged and discharged hundreds of times before they reach the end of their useful life. And you'll notice that they are quite heavy because they're loaded with lead, because again, lead is what gives you the capacity in the battery. So this is a Group 27 battery, and man, this thing is about 50 or 60 pounds. So it's you're buying a lot of lead. So these are the most expensive, the best, well, most expensive flooded battery, the best for cycling applications, and they're fine for starting applications, although if you're just specifically interested in starting an outboard powered boat, you're probably better off with a dual purpose or a starting battery. For the ultimate in cycling performance, the best battery that we offer doesn't use liquid acid. It uses gelled acid. That's a gel battery like this SeaGel 86 that we have. A gelled battery uses a thixotropic gel which holds the acid in a kind of a jelly-like consistency in contact with the plates. It can't spill. You can turn the battery on its side and nothing comes out. In fact, the battery is actually under a slight amount of pressure, which is held in with these pressure caps on the top. Those caps keep the moisture in the battery and keep everything else out. So these batteries operate without any maintenance for their entire lifetime. It's a normal 12-volt battery, so you have 6 cells and each one of them generates about 2 volts a cell. And this battery can be cycled 350, 400, maybe even 500 times before it's ready for recycling. This is ideal for conditions where you are using the battery, discharging it way down to say 11 or 10 volts, charging it back up, discharging it, charging it back up. That's the type of use that you might have on a cruising sailboat, or for that matter, a power boat that spends a lot of time at anchor. Gel batteries are also very good because they have a low self-discharge rate. A low self-discharge rate means that when you leave the battery fully charged or even partially charged, it won't decrease in voltage over time. You can actually take one of these batteries, stick it in a boat in this yard, leave it for the entire winter season, come back to it in the spring and start up your engine. The self-discharge rate is as little as 3% per month, so you can come back to an almost fully charged battery. So there are lots of advantages to gel batteries. Great cycling life, won't spill, it won't even spill if you puncture it, no maintenance, and very low self-discharge rate. So for the best performance in a cycling battery, we recommend batteries like the West Marine SeaGel battery. The final battery in our lineup is also a non-flooded battery. In this case, it's called an AGM, or absorbed glass matte battery. AGM batteries are very similar to gels in that they have sealed construction. You can't add water, no matter if you want to or not, they're sealed. And in fact, they also, like gels, operate under a slight internal pressure. The difference is that instead of having gel inside, they actually have absorbent separators which are saturated with acid, and it isn't in a liquid form. It's in sort of a damp form, kind of like having sponges inside there. That holds the acid. The acid goes through its normal transition, turning into water as the battery discharges, and then charges back to sulfuric acid as the battery charges. These are deep cycle batteries, but actually they combine the properties of a starting battery because they have really good starting performance and really good deep cycle performance. So they're really more like a dual purpose battery. In this case, we're rating it with amp hours, saying this is a 79 ampere hour battery, but we also give cold cranking ramp, marine cranking ramps of 660 amps. So this is actually more powerful than the little starting battery we showed you initially. So what do you get with an AGM battery? You get a battery that's completely tolerant to vibration. You can jiggle this around and pound through waves and do whatever you're going to do to your boat, and you won't damage the battery. You get a battery that won't spill. You get a battery that requires no maintenance. You get a battery that has good cranking performance and a battery that has good cycling capabilities. Now, as we talked about these batteries, we've sort of been talking about them in order of a increasing cost. The least expensive are the starting batteries, the flooded starting batteries. The second most expensive are dual purpose, followed by the deep cycle batteries. The sealed batteries run quite a bit more, but they're warranted for 5 years on a prorated basis, and there's an unconditional 18-month replacement warranty. So they actually have a stronger warranty because, frankly, they just don't wear out. Well, I hope this video has been helpful on understanding the difference between the 5 different battery technologies that West Marine sells. Unfortunately, the 3 flooded batteries are not available through the internet or through the catalog channel because they can't be shipped. So those are only for store pickup. The 2 sealed batteries are available to be shipped out of our distribution centers. Thanks very much, and remember, all of these batteries are not surprisingly available at West Marine.